Hi, it's Gene from maverickstar. Guys, I really don't know what's going on in this world anymore, because it's almost like I've been detached from it. I'll get to that in a few moments. But look what's going on with the governments that we've got around the world. First, they tell us that COVID came from a bat cave and then it arrived in a wet market in Wuhan. And then we find out the truth. It was actually created by a purposeful virology expert that allowed it to leak out of that virology department that was funded by the American government. And we know that because the first people that died of COVID were the ones that worked in the Wuhan laboratory. And then, we get these vaccine rollouts. I can talk about spike proteins with you. Spike proteins in the COVID virus, spike proteins in the COVID vaccines that now, if you watch John Campbell, you'll understand that there's more than a coincidental death rate across all age groups occurring right now. And then, as bizarre as all this seems, our government's acting like really what we would, if we're going to point a finger at a terrorist, then, we shouldn't point it in any other direction than our governments around the world. And you're going to think I'm absolutely crazy for a few reasons. You're going to think, what's happened to Gene? What really has happened to him? They don't behave like they are working for our best interests. In fact, I think it's like I've said before, what's coming from these departments is 180 degrees from the truth. So whenever they talk about something and point the direction in somewhere, it's 180 degrees from that. What I've learned about the CIA, their involvement in manipulating governments around the world with elections, is shocking. And now utilising artificial intelligence in that process as well. There's a reason why we're thinking the way we are around certain ideologies, subjects, and that's been purposely put into our minds. It's unfathomable if you think about it. I'm going to talk about something even more unfathomable a bit later on. You're going to probably think, at this point, when I do mention what I'm going to talk about, you're going to think Gene has totally lost it. I haven't. The green policies are destroying the economy around the world. They're also destroying agriculture. And agriculture is what has separated us from being hunter-gatherers many years ago. When we started to produce agriculture, we became a different creature. A creature that had time on their hands to think about other things. And of course, we developed, lots of things since that point in time. When did all this begin? And, this is going to sound to you guys like, oh my God, that fits perfect. It began 12,000 years ago when we came out the last glacial period. We're about to go back into one. And, the governments around the world are just hell-bent on destroying humanity at the moment. I've got to say that. It's right what the truckers in Europe are protesting about. The things that you won't see on the news media, which should be like screaming alarm bells. They should be on that protest that is taking part in nearly every single country in Europe right now. But they're not. Why is that? Legacy media is not reporting on what people are actually trying to say to their governments. They're trying to say we can't cope anymore, and enough is enough. That's why we're out on the streets, because we cannot deal with what you are asking us to deal with. It's gone too far. Talking about CO2, a trace gas that measures not even 0.5% in our atmosphere, and yet they're blaming that on, destroying the world. How could it possibly have that much influence when it's so insignificant? Just common sense would tell you it's nonsense. And that's why I'm these days, recently, in the last few months, seriously considering, have we been overrun by aliens that want our planet, that want to destroy humans? Because these policies are destroying human beings. Look at the truckers in Canada. What happened to them? Look at these farmer protests. Look at what they're saying. No food, no future. It's absolutely correct. We're living in a time where climate change is happening. We are, and we should understand that, and we should not be complacent in knowing that the environments change. That's why floodplains don't flood for 80 years and then reflood after that period. We live in an active environment. Okay, let's talk about an experiment I done yesterday. I can't believe it. I really can't believe it. That's why I think, I'm probably close to losing the plot. And seeking possibly psychiatric remedies, because I can't explain it. I just can't explain it. Preparing to do a video for you guys, I'd purchased some equipment. I thought I'd make it really easy and simple, and do electrolysis, and then we'll take it from electrolysis to hydrogen cells, and then from there we'll show the introduction to how we can do away with not just the oxygen on the one side of that hydrogen cell, but we can also, not do away with it, but we can not have to put pure oxygen on that one side of the cell, and in order to make it work. But I also told you that we could also go a little bit further than that. We could do away with the hydrogen, and that's a big step, because hydrogen isn't at sea level or land level plentiful resources, because hydrogen's a very lightweight gas. It's at the top of our atmosphere. But the experiment was just, I couldn't record it because I couldn't believe it, what was happening. I thought maybe I'm making a mistake or something, but all I'm going to say is, in the simple electrolysis experiment I did, there was no oxygen output, only hydrogen. And I confirmed that, when we built up the amount of hydrogen gas, I ignited it and it burned as you would expect hydrogen to, nice yellow flame, but zero oxygen was produced. How the hell can that happen? How can you just separate hydrogen from the water molecule? I don't know. Maybe we're talking about quantum physics, that double slit experiment that was conducted. Only under observation it changed its behaviour. You can look up that. I got no explanations for what's happening or why things are changing, even on an individual level, as they have for me yesterday. I was stunned watching zero oxygen be produced. Now, we know when we do a simple experiment with oxygen, with electrolysis, we expect twice the amount of gas forming in hydrogen than what is forming in oxygen. And I'm telling you now, there was zero oxygen. How can that possibly happen? It's left me really, really thinking about everything now. And it's difficult to have a solid opinion on things. Because they can quite easily change before your very eyes. We live in a world which is progressively going down the hole, not improving and not getting any better. And the real advice for you guys is prepare. Stock up some food just in case you don't have the availability of a bit of garden, which most people don't in many cities. They don't have gardens. They have maybe a balcony if they're lucky, or just the view of a national park or something like that. But in a crisis, when things really come down to it, what we've got to behave like is what we did 12,000 years ago. Those people that could live off the land, foraging, and maybe after this has all taken place, which I feel is going to happen very shortly, we become farmers again, because it's going down the pan. If you look at what's happening in Germany, Germany was one of the richest economies in the world. And, they started to implement these stupid policies where it just unknitted everything successful about Germany. The people are up in arms about it. That's what the farmer protests are generally about. And the people that were caught up in those, long standing motorway hold-ups were people that agreed with why it was happening and happy to participate in that. It's because they feel that they're not being treated as they should be by the government. The government isn't working anymore for the people. The government telling you guys right now to prepare in food, a way of sourcing water and making it drinkable in case of a crisis? No, because what they're telling you is that everything is under control when it's out of control. we're just living in unprecedented times right now. It's shocking. The lies that the government are telling us have gone beyond the point of believable, and now it's very clear. Nobody's listening to legacy media, mainstream media anymore. They've lost their control and the grip on that. Rightfully so, because that was the propaganda, spoon-fed information that they wanted us to hear. It's gone beyond that. With the level of technology that's increased over the last few years, it's gone way beyond that. You wouldn't believe, the levels of the intelligence departments within each of our countries have developed and how they utilise that information and that ability to manipulate. You wouldn't believe it. They will make you do things that you wouldn't ordinarily have done before, and they'll make you think that was right to do. That's how they manipulate votes, and we are in the process this year in the UK and America, coincidentally, of a major election, a democratic vote, which is absolutely nothing of the sorts. It won't be democratic at all. There are only the two poorest choices of government in the UK for us to choose from, and neither of them will improve our situation. So, not only are we now admitted by the government in a recession, we are also in a total depression, because what do you do from here? How can you vote two bad things? Why can't we have an opportunity to vote for something good? And why isn't that there for us to choose for? You know what? I think the experiment was showing me is that it doesn't matter what you think you know, or what is scientifically a law. It can be changed. When I saw zero oxygen being produced but tons of hydrogen on the other side, as a scientist, I have no explanation for that, and can only reflect on quantum physics and that double slit experiment, which showed that under observation things behave differently. And maybe it just wanted to show me that, Gene, you need to understand. Maybe the governments need to understand that as well, that the nature of this universe has more power over them. The progressive path that they're moving on at this point in time is not going to achieve any results. The more you try and force somebody to do something, the more resilience that builds up. They won't win, but they will, in trying to hold power over us, lose every ounce and gram of respect for them. The more they try and force us into a corner, the more it will harm them. And they haven't realised that yet, but they will. They're on a learning curve. They think they're on an IT curve. a technological advancement curve, but they're not. They're on a learning curve, and they're about to realise that despite all their methods of crooked behaviour, it's going to come back on them, because there's an even greater force in our universe, and we commonly call it karma. It's coming back on them tenfold. Watch how things progress from this point on out. Obviously, we're seeing no equilibrium, so things are going to continuously down spiraling from this point on out. I'm sorry for such a negative video. I wish I could put some roses and daffodils in there in this picture, but your conscious will produce a certain picture, and I don't think it will include those things. Because if you're living like I'm living right now, you know what the problems are. If you've got an ounce of grey matter, you'll have worked it out. For the majority of this outcome, I think the best thing to do, if you're not in a position to actively change it, is to just sit back right now and watch it unfold, because we've got to that point where it was beyond trying to remedy it years ago. It's got to the point now where we've just got to witness the point of impact, where the car meets the other car in the collision. In a slow motion video, we've seen the cars coming together. 2 years, 3 years ago, more years ago, we saw this happening. Now we're at that frame rate where we are seeing the impact, and we're watching the crumpling of the two vehicles. That's the disaster. You still have a bit of time. There are uncontrolled things taking place right now in the modern world. Forget even thinking about the importance of Ukraine and Gaza and Israel and all the espionage that is taking place around us. Just forget about it. Let it go. Just watch this next chapter. If you've got time, and you want to continue to be the person watching for the longer length of time, then, get some food, resources, stock up now, because we're about to see the whole thing come to an end. There's a link down there if you want to help support what we do at the observatory. It's entirely up to you, and probably haven't in this video given you good reason or cause to support it, and that's fine. But I'll say what I usually do in any case. You take care of your loved ones. Why not today eat something you wouldn't ordinarily eat? Put that steak on the menu. Treat yourselves. As always, bye for now.